So last night before my mom got home, I did a video talking about Kathleen Finch and, will she have any impact whatsoever on AEW? Now, I brought up the fact that, I do believe I brought up the fact during the video that just because AEW is bringing in big numbers doesn't mean they wouldn't be on the chopping block or they wouldn't be removed, if you catch my drift. WCW made some great numbers, even though they weren't at their best. I guess you could say the best ability, if you will, the best product, if you will. Or what I'm trying to say is the product wasn't at the best it could be, is what I'm trying to say. But yet, when AOL and Time Warner merged, the new people in charge said, nope, wrestling's not on our slate. We don't like wrestling. It doesn't fit our mold. Delete it. And that's what they did. They just said, despite, WCW, Nitro, and Thunder bringing in some decent numbers, along with Saturday Night bringing in some decent numbers, they said, nope, doesn't work for us. It's gone. And the reason I brought that up, and I'm sure others bring this up too, is because who's to say Kathleen Finch and those that she works with won't, think about doing the same thing with AEW. Now, the only difference, as I and others have pointed out, including the likes of an Eric Bischoff and even a Vince Russo and Jim Cornette, to kind of extend on this, is the difference with AEW and WCW is AEW is an independent promotion owned by Tony Khan. Tony Khan and the Khan family, who own and run the Jacksonville Jaguars and a few other sports and entertainment entities, are in control of AEW. So basically, AEW isn't, much in the same, if not similar situation that WCW was in when this kind of change happened before, thus making any chance of them being taken off the slate less of a worry, less of a problem. But it still doesn't mean, Kathleen Finch and all of them won't consider AEW as something that they don't want to have on the programming block going forward. Like, they might be willing to let the contract expire, at the end of 2023, and then say, okay, Tony Khan, you have to find a new home for your show, for your promotion, because we ain't going to air it anymore. That's the only thing that's the only silver lining. Like, even despite bringing in good numbers and probably bringing in good numbers by the time the contract expiration comes up, they could still say to Tony Khan, hey, you had a great run here, but we're going in a different direction. You're going to have to find another home. And that might happen. Not saying it will, but it might. Now, despite all that, one of the things that a lot of people in the industry, like a Conan, like a Glenn Gabberty, like a Jim Cornette, like an Eric Bischoff, like a Vince Russo, and many fans in particular, like myself and just Alex and everybody else, the one thing, that we always point out that might change even during its remaining years on TBS and maybe even beyond that with TBS and TNT, that the one thing that might change is Kathleen Finch and her crew might talk to Tony Khan and say, look, you're bringing in great numbers, the revenue's great and everything, but we do ask of you to do one thing for us. And Tony Khan might ask what that is, and she'll probably say, cut down on the blood and the swearing. Either cut down on it or don't do it at all. And that would be it. And then that right there, ladies and gentlemen, would be probably an issue. Not for Tony Khan. No. Not for Tony Khan. And maybe not even, some of the wrestlers, the men and the women in AEW. But it might be an issue for the fans. And that is the question right there, is how do fans feel about this entire situation? How do fans feel about, the effect Kathleen Finch could have, this Warner Brothers Discovery Media merger, or this Warner Media Discovery merger, if you will, putting someone like Kathleen Finch, in charge of all 40 networks, including TNT and TBS. The question fans have, obviously, is what effect is she going to have, if any? Will she remove what they tune into AEW to watch? And that's not just the great storylines and the great, wrestlers that perform in the ring, but the blood and the swearing. How would they feel about that? How would they feel if all of a sudden Tony Khan comes on screen, and then introduces Kathleen Finch alongside him, and then proclaims that there won't be no more swearing or blood anymore on AEW, because of the merger and everything? How do you think fans are going to react? How are fans going to react to a change like that if it happens? How are they going to react if Kathleen Finch herself comes on screen along with Tony Khan and says, AEW is going to remain, but we're going to cut down on this and that? How are fans going to react? I'll tell you probably how they'll react, in my opinion. They won't be happy. Because a lot of people say that one of the things you need to tell a great story, between two individuals, teams, whatever, that you've been building for years and years and years, if not months and months and months, and you want to have a good payoff with it, the one thing you need to have is blood and swearing. You need to have some kind of, vision of, visual vision and audio vision of that, seen and heard to help really build a story to a level that it deserves to be in. However, with Kathleen Finch coming in, that probably could all change. And like I said, you have to believe that fans won't be happy about that. I mean, I could already see, and I say this with all due respect, I could already see some fans coming out and basically saying that AEW, if this happens, and that's a big if not a more realistic if you catch my drift, that if this happens, I could see a lot of these wrestling fans that support AEW, suddenly coming out and saying, oh, great, so AEW is just another WWE now. Whoopee! Now, they might say that the only thing that still makes them different is the in-ring competition and the stories, at times. But without the blood and the swearing and everything, to them it'll be just like another WWE. The only difference being, it's more focused on wrestling. Now, some might be cool with that because that's what they want. They want something that's more focused on the wrestling than, than just the, having blood and swearing and all that. And that's cool. That's cool. But we have seen throughout the years that the reason a lot of people support different wrestling promotions that have come and gone and are still here today, as an alternative to WWE, is because of the blood, because of the violence, because of the swearing. That's why they support it. That's why they not support it, that being AEW, but that's why they support any other promotion that, like I said, has come and gone before it or is still here. And if someone like Kathleen Finch comes in and, along with her crew, talks to Tony Khan, says, hey, your show, your promotion's bringing in great numbers. We want to keep it around for a little longer. Here's an extension. However, the catch is we need you to cut down, if not remove, the swearing and the blood from your programming, to maintain, their status on the networks. Like I said, you have to wonder how fans are going to react. How are they going to react to that? Now, like I said, some might be cool with it because all they want is the wrestling, and that's good. And maybe they might even think, hey, okay, we can't have it on Dynamite or Rampage, but that shouldn't prevent it from being on pay-per-view, right? Maybe not. Maybe not. Because you see, even though pay-per-views are a lot more different, and you're more than likely to see blood and swear, and here I should say, swearing on a pay-per-view over, regular broadcast television, it doesn't mean it still won't affect it to some extent. Because, I'm not saying that it will, but who's to say that, once, let's say this happens. Not saying it will. Let's make that perfectly clear. I'm not saying it will. But let's say the day comes, the decision is made by, Tony Khan, to work along, to make Discovery and Warner Media and Kathleen Finch happy that, okay, there will be no more blood, there will be no more swearing on Dynamite and Rampage. Okay, not a big loss there, right? But who's to say that if they try to do it on pay-per-view, that it won't come back and bite them in the rear, and she'll come out, and with that being Kathleen Finch, I should say, Kathleen Finch won't, suddenly call up Tony Khan and say, we warned you, now we're giving you a strike. You get 2 more, you're off the air. Who's to say that, the pay-per-view having blood and swearing on it won't be limited, if not prohibited, at all as well. You have to really think about that. Because even if the regular shows and the YouTube shows are, I guess you could say limited, if not prevented from, having any of that at all, who's to say it won't extend to the pay-per-views, as well? And this is why fans, always are wondering, since this merger with Warner and Discovery Media has been going on, a lot of fans have been wondering what effect will, the person being put in charge, Kathleen Finch, have, on the product, and how will fans react with, her potential involvement with AEW going forward. That is a major question fans want to get answers to, and they want to get those answers right now because they don't want to have to tune in one day and suddenly see the TV 14 rating replaced by TV PG, and all of a sudden they just hear, and I go, suddenly appear on the screen going like, why is he being bleeped? And I'm wondering, like, why is he being bleeped? Or suddenly, if there is blood, all of a sudden it just, you see a black circle around somebody's face, or it goes gray, and you're like, or the screen goes gray, and you're like, what is this? So they don't want to tune into that one day and suddenly see it. They want to be prepared. They want answers, and they want those answers now. But yeah, are fans concerned? Yes, they are. But the question is, how will they react if any impact, to coin a phrase, takes place on AEW thanks to Kathleen Finch and her crew, being put in charge, of the 40 networks, including TNT and TBS. Because, again, they could be bringing in good numbers, but after the contract expires, like I said earlier, or comes to a point where they have to renegotiate, she and her crew could say, they could say to Tony Khan, they could shake Tony Khan's hand and say, hey, you had a great run with our networks, but we want to go in a different direction, so we suggest finding a new home. How will they react if that happens? How will they react if, they do keep AEW on their networks for years to come, but the catch is there's got to be no more swearing, no more blood whatsoever, and that includes pay-per-views and even the YouTube shows. How will fans react? That's the question. That's the question fans, want answers to right now. How, what is the status? What is the AEW going to look like going forward? That's what they want to know. I mean, we kind of already seen an example with that with Satnam Singh, if you will. But the question is, what more is to come, if you catch my drift? What is the outlook going to be like? But that's just me talking and kind of thinking about how fans will react to it. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts overall on how do you think fans will react depending on what kind of impact, what kind of, decisions, Kathleen Finch and her crew could make that would, affect AEW? Like, do you think they'll let them stay until the contract expires and then say and then, thank them for the time, but then suggest find a new home? Do you think they'll keep them around for years to come, but say, hey, you got to remove the blood and the swearing all across the board, including pay-per-views and YouTube? How do you think fans are going to react if any of that happens? Let me know down below in the comments, as well as in the live chat during the premiere, where our super chats are open and would be appreciated. Also, check me out at divanart.com. That's BVW1979. Also, check me out at my Teespring store, or for merchandise you can't get anywhere else. Also, check me out at Vimeo at BW Roses for content you can't get here on YouTube due to copyright reasons. Also, check me out, ladies and gentlemen, at Venmo at Brian-Warmer-2 to support me there, as well as Cash App at BW Roses 98. Also, check me out at patreon.com/BW Roses. Support me with the $1 or $3 tier. But let me know what your thoughts are, guys. How do you feel about this overall? And I will talk to you later. I got to get myself ready for work. Peace.